The movie opens with an FBI undercover mission, closely monitoring a team of skilled thieves. They track every move and conversation, hoping to finally catch the elusive crew. The team's leader, Will, is America's most wanted thief, a phantom the FBI has never been able to apprehend. Finally, they get a solid lead. Will is planning a heist tonight. The FBI sets up surveillance, determined to catch him red-handed. In the next scene, Will sits comfortably in a van, listening to his favorite song. It's his pre-heist ritual. He believes it ensures success. His teammate, Vincent, however, is annoyed by the repetitive tune. Suddenly, a call comes in from Hoyt, another team member, confirming that he's successfully jammed all the surveillance cameras. Hoyt's crucial role is to disable security systems, paving the way for their entry. With the all clear, Will and Vincent head into a toy shop. Inside, they locate a specific wall, which they then expertly blast open. Beyond it lies a vault. The FBI, still listening, holds back, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Will and Vincent plant another bomb inside the vault, creating a hole. Will then skillfully picks the internal lock, and the vault creaks open. At this critical juncture, the FBI moves in, storming the jewelry store they believed was the target. To their dismay, they find no evidence of a robbery. Realizing they've been outsmarted, they quickly redirect to the toy shop. Meanwhile, Will and Vincent are inside the vault, which is overflowing with cash and, to one side, a significant amount of gold. Vincent, dazzled by the gold, instinctively reaches for it, but Will stops him. He explains that the gold's weight makes it impossible to transport quickly. Without a hint of greed, Will efficiently fills bags with only the money, and they prepare to leave. By now, the FBI team leader understands they've been expertly deceived. Will had created a diversion at the jewelry store while planning the real heist at the bank, conveniently connected through the toy shop. As the FBI rushes into the bank, it's too late. Will and Vincent have already exited through a back route. As they make their escape, a man spots them. Vincent believes they should kill him to leave no witnesses, but Will refuses. "I'm a thief, not a murderer," he declares. Vincent, however, is insistent, leading to a heated fight between the two. Out on the street, Riley and Hoyt are waiting in their van. During the struggle, Vincent is accidentally shot in the leg. Will pulls him into the van, but then realizes he left the money bag back at the scene of the fight. He quickly runs back to retrieve it. Hoyt, panicked and fearing capture, disregards Riley's protests and drives the van away, leaving Will behind. Will, now with the money bag in hand, faces an approaching police car. He disarms and incapacitates the officer, takes their car, and speeds off with the money. A fleet of police cars gives chase, their tracking systems making it easier to follow him. Will eventually manages to duck into a building, which is then surrounded by a swarm of police vehicles. After a short standoff, he emerges and surrenders. However, the money is nowhere to be found, despite a thorough search of the building. Will is sent to jail, sentenced to 8 years. Throughout his incarceration, he remains silent, never revealing his name or the location of the stolen money to the authorities. 8 years pass, and Will is finally released from prison. Tim, who has been waiting, immediately confronts him, demanding to know the whereabouts of the $10 million. Will insists he doesn't have the money and steps out of the car in front of his daughter's house. He's a divorced man. His ex-wife has remarried. He's here to see his daughter, Alison, for the first time in years. Alison, now much older, is suffering from depression, a consequence of her mother's new marriage and her father's imprisonment. Despite Will's attempts to explain, she refuses to listen and leaves him in a taxi. A dejected Will then seeks out Riley, who now works happily in a bar. The movie doesn't explain how Will knew where to find her after 8 years. As he talks to Riley, a phone rings from a packet Alison had given him the day he was released, a packet addressed to Will. He opens it to find a phone inside, and on the other end is Vincent. Will had believed Vincent was dead. Vincent explains that he faked his death to escape the police and the people whose money he'd stolen. He's now gravely ill and has lost a leg due to the gunshot wound. He even cut off his own finger at the time of his death to leave behind false evidence. Now he wants all his things back. Vincent reveals that he has kidnapped Alison. He's currently a taxi driver, and Alison had unknowingly taken his cab. Vincent blackmails Will, demanding the $10 million, or he'll kill his daughter. Will desperately tries to explain that he doesn't have the money, but Vincent refuses to believe him. Will then claims the money is with his lawyer, who lives in a distant city, and it will take him 24 hours to get there. Vincent gives him only 12 hours, threatening to kill Alison if the money isn't delivered within that time frame. The phone Vincent sent Will has a tracker, and Will must answer every call. Failure to do so will result in Alison's death. Will agrees to the terms. He goes to a station, buys a new phone, and sets up call forwarding so that all calls to the original tracked phone will be redirected to his new one. He then places the tracked phone on a train heading to the city where his lawyer supposedly lives. Will goes to Tim, the FBI agent. Will tries to explain his problem, but Tim thinks Will is lying. Tim believes Will still has the $10 million and is just trying to make the police believe him so he can escape with the money. Tim doesn't listen and throws Will out of his office. As Will leaves, he quickly fights two officers, takes their ID cards, and uses them to get into their computer system. He finds Hoyt's current address. Tim soon finds out that Will stole the cards and got Hoyt's address. Tim is shocked because he thought Vincent was dead. Still, he sends police to Hoyt's house and follows Will himself. When Will arrives at Hoyt's house, Will is already inside. Will asks him where Vincent is. At first, Hoyt doesn't say anything, but after some pushing, he tells Will the truth. Hoyt says that Vincent is alive, but he's changed a lot. After Vincent was shot and Will was caught, their lives became terrible. They tried to steal, but nothing worked out. Vincent blames Will for everything. Hoyt also admits that Vincent made him give the packet, with the phone, to Alison. He says Vincent kidnapped Alison in his taxi so no one could find them, and he drives his taxi all over the city to stay hidden. After this, Hoyt attacks Will, and they start fighting. But the FBI arrives, and they shoot Hoyt, killing him. Will quickly jumps from the balcony and escapes, blending into a nearby parade. In the next scene, Vincent is driving his taxi in the city. A police officer stops him because one of his tail lights isn't working. Alison, who is in the car, had secretly removed it. The officer tells Vincent to fix the light. When the officer starts to leave, Alison screams from inside the taxi. The officer immediately tells Vincent to open the cab door. Vincent pretends to open it, but then he quickly shoots and kills the officer. He looks back and sees Alison running away as she got a chance to escape. But Alison can't run far. She reaches a dead end, where Vincent catches her again and makes her unconscious. Meanwhile, Will sees a taxi that looks exactly like the one Alison got into earlier. He holds the taxi driver at gunpoint. He notices that every taxi has a GPS tracker. He tells the driver to call his boss and ask about a taxi with a fake driver's badge and no fingerprints. This scene between Will and the taxi driver is quite funny in the movie. The taxi driver calls his boss and gives him the driver's name and car number. He also finds out where the taxi is. Will goes to that location and checks every taxi there. He finds a taxi with the same number plate and grabs the driver, but it's not Vincent, it's someone else. Will realizes Vincent used a trick to hide which taxi he's in. Because the FBI was following Will, they arrive and arrest him. They put him in a car, and then Will's phone rings. It's Vincent calling the phone on the train. Will tells the officers it's very important to answer, but they don't listen, thinking he's lying. To free himself, Will breaks his own finger to get out of the handcuffs. He then attacks both officers, causing their car to crash. Will picks up the phone and answers Vincent's call. Vincent, hearing the crash and Will's hurried words, realizes Will lied about being on the train. Will then tells Vincent he actually burned the money. He explains he burned it because if he'd been caught with the money, he'd have gotten 18 years in jail. But by having no money, he only got 8 years. Vincent says that if Will doesn't have the money, he'll kill Alison. But Will quickly offers, "I can get you the money. I'm a thief. I can steal it for you." Vincent agrees and hangs up. Will meets Riley and tells her he needs to steal again. Riley doesn't want to go back to a life of crime, but when she learns Alison has been kidnapped, she agrees to help. Meanwhile, Tim goes to the owner of the taxi company. He received a report about an unknown man driving away in a taxi and also looking for another taxi driver. When Tim sees the picture of the driver the man was looking for, he's shocked. It's Vincent. Tim finally understands that Will was telling the truth. Vincent is alive. Will and Riley load a lot of equipment into Riley's car and drive to an abandoned building 5 blocks away from the bank they robbed at the beginning of the movie. They go to the underground section of the building. As they move through the underground tunnels, they find themselves directly under the large amount of gold that Will had refused to steal from Vincent during their first heist. Will reveals that he got bored in jail and spent his time planning this ultimate heist, and now he's putting that plan into action. They break through the ground beneath the gold and start melting it with fire. An alarm is set to trigger if the temperature goes too high, but Will knows exactly how much gold he can melt before that happens. They melt a huge amount of gold, which falls into water below and cools down. Riley then picks it up and puts it in bags. This gold is worth $100 million. As the temperature rises, the bank calls both the police and the fire department. When Tim finds out the alarm has triggered at the same bank Will robbed before, he realizes Will is stealing there again. Tim rushes to the bank with his entire team, but finds that Will and Riley have already left with a huge amount of gold. Will and Riley drive away, and the police are watching and following them. Once again, Tim wants to be the hero. He tells his officers not to catch them yet, but to follow them and catch them red-handed later. After a while, he gives the order to stop Riley's car. They stop the car, but then realize there's a fake statue of Will inside. Will has already switched to another car and escaped. Since there's no evidence against Riley, the police have to let her go. Will then gets a call from Vincent, who invites him to an amusement park to exchange the money. Tim, thinking like a detective, figures Vincent would choose a place he's familiar with for a long time. He checks Vincent's taxi routes and finds that he often went to a closed amusement park, meaning no passengers would be there. Tim realizes Vincent is probably there and sends his team to the amusement park. In the next scene, Will and Vincent face each other. Will brings a bag of gold and gives it to Vincent. But Vincent still refuses to release Alison, who is in the car's trunk. Vincent believes Will ruined his life for many years and now wants to ruin Will's life too. Vincent drops oil on the ground and has already poured oil inside the car. He's about to light the car on fire with a stick, but Will attacks him and a fight begins. The car still catches fire. To save his daughter, Will fights Vincent fiercely, then jumps into the burning car. He drives the car and plunges it into the water. The car sinks, and the trunk fills with water. Will struggles to open the trunk, but Vincent attacks him again, continuing the fight underwater. Will finally beats Vincent, opens the trunk, and saves Alison. Vincent is still alive, but this time Will is furious. In a fit of rage, he kills Vincent, puts his body in the car's trunk, and climbs out of the submerged car. By now, Will has been shot, and there's a lot of blood coming from his stomach. Tim arrives with his entire team and rescues Will and his daughter. In the helicopter, Alison asks if they'll put Will in jail for robbing the bank. Tim replies that he's sure Vincent robbed the bank. Tim realizes his mistake. If he had listened to Will from the start, Will would never have robbed the bank. Because of this, he doesn't blame Will for the heist. In the next scene, Tim is still watching Will from a distance. It turns out that 5 kilograms of gold are missing from the total amount stolen, making Tim suspect Will still has it. On the other side, Will is enjoying his day with Alison and Riley. He finds a piece of gold in Riley's car, which he hadn't intentionally taken. He picks up the gold and talks to Riley. Tim watches everything. After a short conversation, Will takes the piece of gold and throws it into the water. Finally, Tim feels relaxed, believing Will has given up the last piece, and decides to stop pursuing him. In the movie's last scene, we see the piece of gold from the bank vault sitting on a table. The piece of gold Will threw into the water was actually a piece of coconut. The gold Will truly kept is worth $2 million. And with this, the movie ends. If you like this explanation, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And if you enjoy animated movies, please visit my channel and subscribe. See you in the next video.